This is the all-new 2022 Acura MDX. Acura has changed this completely inside and out. So let's start from the very bottom. It's got an all-new chassis, all-new platform, and obviously all-new styling. Got this big grille, this giant Acura badge in the middle. Looks like it's flying through an asteroid field or through outer space. You got these jewel-like LED headlights. Back here, you got these kind of blade-like taillights. Dual exhaust at the bottom. Not only did Acura change the MDX's styling, it also changed its dimensions. So it's 1.4 inches wider in the front and rear, and it also has 2.8 more inches of wheelbase. The standard wheels are 1 inch larger in diameter, and they measure 19 inches by 8.5 inches. For the first time ever on the MDX, there's a double wishbone front suspension. There's also a new multi-link design at the rear. The new MDX also has a more powerful, naturally aspirated 3.5 liter V6 that generates 290 horsepower and 267 pound-feet of torque. It routes that through a standard 10-speed automatic transmission. You can pair that with either front-wheel drive or super handling all-wheel drive. As equipped, my all-wheel drive tester has EPA fuel economy ratings of 19 city, 25 highway, and 21 combined miles per gallon. The super handling all-wheel drive system is now in its 4th generation and can handle 40% more torque at the rear and can transfer torque from the front to the rear 30% quicker than before. When it needs to, the super handling all-wheel drive system can send up to 70% of the engine's torque to the rear end and up to 100% of that power to either of the rear wheels. According to Acura, base pricing for the front-wheel drive model is $46,900. Selecting super handling all-wheel drive bumps that price up to $48,900. My tester here has a final price of around $58,000. That's because Acura added some optional equipment to my loaner here, primarily the Tech package and the A Spec package. A Spec package highlights include LED fog lights, exclusive styling including a lot of black trim, leather sports seats with ultra suede inserts, ventilated front seats, sport pedals, and the 16-speaker Acura ELS Studio 3D sound system. The Tech package comes filled with navigation with voice recognition, rain-sensing wipers, power folding side mirrors, front and rear parking sensors, second-row sunshades, and more. Acura bundled quite a bit into its AcuraWatch suite of safety and driver assistance features, including adaptive cruise control, collision mitigation braking, forward collision warning, lane departure warning, lane keeping assist, and more. No matter how you spec the MDX, there are just certain things that come standard with it, including this panoramic moonroof, a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster, a 12.3-inch center display, the true touchpad interface for the infotainment system, Amazon Alexa and wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and wireless charging. Let's take a look at the inside. I'm going to unlock it with the key fob just to show you what it looks like. Nice looking piece. So you've got a little bit of padding up here, and you can see the vanes for the ambient lighting. You get this textured metallic trim, red contrast stitching, more metallic trim here, and one of the ELS Studio speaker grills. Then you can fold the mirrors in. You can adjust them using these controls and your power locks and windows. And then the release for the power lift gate in the back. Got these A Spec door sill plates. Controls for the power seats. Got more A Spec branding right there. And you got metal pedals. You have these microfiber inserts down the middle, perforated. Got the headrest controls right there. Got that dramatic welcome screen. I'm going to press this start button right here. Got more theatrics right there. And then on the center screen, got your main gauges right there on the digital screen. And if you want to adjust the readouts, you can use this thumb wheel here. That shows you the way the power is being routed through the super handling all-wheel drive system. Tire pressure is very important, and other important readouts. As you can see right now, I'm averaging under 20 miles per gallon. For the steering wheel, you've got more red contrast stitching. Got these shift paddles right here. Automatic lighting, fog light controls. Another shift paddle, of course, and then you've got automatic wipers, various other functions right here. And then, as I showed you, you can use this to adjust the readout on the right side of the main gauge cluster. Your adaptive cruise control settings right here. Steering assist. You can increase or close the gap right there. And then you've got your master control for the infotainment screen on the right. Audio controls, and you can use this to toggle between presets on the radio. Hands-free, back button, and then a shortcut to apps. So you hit that, and then you can use this little thumb wheel to go between the various sources. Up top, you have this nice wide visor. Swing it out, and it does telescope, which is nice, and you get full coverage there. There's no sliver of window there that this doesn't cover. Up here, you have your roadside assistance call button, and then the controls for the panoramic moonroof shade and moonroof itself, as well as your overhead lighting, and then a sunglass holder right here. Over in the middle, you have this nice wide infotainment display. And you notice I didn't say touchscreen because this is just the display. So if you hit any of these icons with your finger, nothing happens. That's because you have to use these two pads and these shortcuts down here to control what goes on up there. Let's say I want to access navigation, right? I have to keep in mind that it's in the upper left, and that corresponds to this part of the trackpad. So I've got my finger on it, I press down on it, I select it. When it comes to the social playlist, there's not a hard and fast position on this trackpad. So what I do is I kind of sort of cheat. You can cheat a little bit. So I have my finger in the upper left corner and I trace it over to the right. So I have to level with all of you. When I first tried the infotainment interface in the first MDX that I tested, I really didn't like it. I got more familiar with it. I learned how to use it, but I still didn't like it. I had the same mindset going into testing this MDX, but I've become even more familiar with how to use it, and I have learned that you can use that trackpad as a regular trackpad if you want to. It has the corner shortcuts to make things easier, but if you still want to use it as a regular trackpad and push down on whatever item on the screen you select, you can do that. One cool thing about this infotainment setup is that it comes with wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay. So if you're like me and you want to listen to bin folds on your way home, you can do that without plugging your phone in. Speaking of bin folds, I wanted to test out this 16-speaker ELS Studio 3D sound system. And one song that I've really liked lately is the bin fold song Kylie from Connecticut. So I played it the other night. I had the audio system set up to play to the entire vehicle instead of just the front row or the rear or whatever. And wow, it was just so rich. I could hear all the layers, all of the subtleties. The bass was potent and it hit just right. I was really impressed. I mean, I already liked that song a lot, but listening to it on this system just took it to another level. One of my new frustrations with this system is the fact that there's no hard and fast radio button. So if you're in another part of the system, let's say you're in navigation, and you want to go to the radio, there's no hard and fast button for it down here or right here. Further down, you got the two center HVAC vents, hazard lights, Then your HVAC controls, so you got these handy paddles for bumping up or down the temperature. And right here you have the main fan controls, auto climate control. You can sync both climate zones in the front, and you can change the fan split, adjust the fan speed right there. Then your primary AC, rear climate control settings, so you hit this, you can adjust the fan split and the temperature. You can also lock people out from adjusting the climate controls in the back. And you got your front defroster, rear and mirror defroster, recirc, and then you've got your front seat climate controls. So you've got 3 stages of ventilation and heat, but if you just want to let it determine which one to use depending on the weather, you can just hit the auto button, which I'm a big fan of because it's been hot over here, so I just leave that on and it always seems to dial in the right amount of seat ventilation. And then this right here is how you change the personality of the MDX. So you can turn it left or right to pick which mode you want. So I'm going to try to pull back here so you can see how things change on both displays. So I'm going to turn it to the left, put it in snow mode, and you can see the gauge display and the center screen change their output based on the drive mode. So now I'm going to turn to the right, select comfort. You got that nice calming blue light. Switch to normal, get the white gauge lighting, and then you guessed it, for sport mode you've got red accents. And this might not be good news for some of you out there, but there's a lot of piano black trim. On the left side here, you've got the auto start stop defeat button right there, the brake hold function, which is great for driving around town and commuting, and this very unusual layout for the shifter. So as you can tell, it's buttons. So you push P button for park, you pull back on this for reverse. It's got different lighting. N for neutral, and then D for drive, of course, and then you hit it again to engage the transmission sport mode. Now this is a bit unusual, although other manufacturers have started using similar systems. One thing I like about this is it has an easy to use neutral button, which makes going through a touchless car wash easy. The one near my house, the attendant motions you in, tells you whether to turn the wheel or straighten out, and then you get on, you're supposed to put the left wheels on this guided track, right? And then as soon as you're on there, you're supposed to engage neutral. Now, some vehicles have a shift lever where if you don't bump it the right amount at the right time, you're not going to engage neutral, which is a nightmare because you're supposed to have your hands off the wheel, foot off the brake, and the vehicle in neutral. But with this, it was nice and easy. I just rolled up, and as soon as he told me to hit neutral, I hit it. Then right here, you have the somewhat concealed charging options. You do have the reminder right there, but you push down on that. You've got 2 types of USB chargers right there. Further down here, you're familiar with these controls, I'm sure, by now. And the centralized audio controls. That's something I've become familiar with in Mazda vehicles, but as you probably saw earlier, there were no audio controls up here or in the center stack. So it's all right here. It's centralized. It's nice and convenient for the front passenger, but I'm not a fan of it because, you know, my instinct is if I'm listening to something, you know, my eyes every now and then go over to the center screen because I have the radio display up there, usually when I'm driving. And if I want to change the volume, my instinct is to reach up here or somewhere in the middle here. But I have to constantly remind myself if I want to change the volume, I either do it here or on the steering wheel. And right here, if you want to toggle between individual radio stations, for instance, you can do that. Then right here, it's not exactly a cup holder. I mean, I guess you could put like a breakfast burrito or really anything you want to right there. Or I guess if you had a juice box, it'd probably fit right there. So technically it could be a sort of cup holder. Then you've got the main cup holders right here. And just to use this pad system right here, Acura put in another sort of pad. Get your wrist rest right here. The drawback to all of these controls being right here is that even though you do have a center console storage compartment, it's abbreviated. Now, what Acura did to maximize space was they made it a two-tier system. So you have two different releases right here. So I'm going to push down on this far right one, and that opens up the top level of storage. It's shallow, but it's got two different compartments. So if you want to keep pens or pencils right there, and then, you know, small items right there, you can. You close this, move over to the left, you've got the primary compartment. But as you can see, it's a little cramped in here. I mean, I've got my pouch for receipts. It's not a large pouch, but given the dimensions here, it's a bit of a tight fit. And then I've got my suction cup mount for my camera rig. And then you do have more charging options. So another USB, and then you've got a 12 volt right there. Now let's check out the back seat. So the seat does recline, so you can pull up on this. And then if you need to move the seat forward, just push on this button, automatically tilts it forward and slides it a little bit as well. You can also get the same result pushing on this button on the top of the backrest. Frees up a little room to get into the third row. Now I'm going to slide this seat as far back as I can to show you. Of course, you do that using this bar down here. So the seat is all the way back. I'm going to get in and show you how much leg room I have. So I'm 5'10", and as you can tell, I have plenty of leg room in front of me. And if I was a little closer, these little carve outs on the sides would help me out a little bit. Up here you have your grab handles, a little hook if you need to take dry cleaning or anything like that. There's also a little speaker grill up here. And then you've got overhead lighting. Now there are no roof vents because you've got this massive panoramic moonroof, but you do have a couple right there at the back of the center console. As you can tell, you've got an adjustable climate zone here. You've got an auto mode. You can adjust the fan split. You can turn the system on or off, and then you can adjust the fan speed using these buttons right here. You also have some charging options down here. So you have a 12 volt plug right here and a couple of USB ports next to it. So I have the backrest somewhat in an upright position right now, but this gives you a chance to see that I have a decent amount of headroom here. I can't exactly fit my whole fist, but like I said, the seat back is pretty upright. So I'm gonna lean it back a little bit. Not too much. Okay, that's comfortable right there. Okay, yeah, so still doesn't free up a whole ton of space, but I'm definitely not brushing the headliner. Right now I have the center seat down, which exposes these two cup holders in this generously sized storage area. Now I'm going to move this out of the way so that I can flip the seat up. And in order to do that, you pull up on this tab and lift the seat up at the same time. That takes two hands, so I had to cut right there, but as you can see, it's in place now. There's also a loop down here. So if you pull forward on this and you push this center section forward, you can actually remove the entire center seat. So if for some reason you need that extra space in the middle there, you can do it. A word of warning though, even though that is narrow, it's heavier than it looks. Okay, time to get into the third row, but before I do that, I need to raise the third row so that I can actually sit in it. And as you can tell back here, there are no power controls to raise the third row, so you just do it the old-fashioned way. You get these handles here, put them into place, raise the headrests. All right, now it's time to get back there. To do that, I'm gonna press this button that I showed you earlier. Tilts and slides the seat forward a little bit. You got a little bit of leg room back here. Get your own dedicated floor mat. Okay. So just for the sake of demonstration, I've got the seat slid back as far as I can get it, and I've tilted the seat back almost even with the rest of the second row seats. And surprisingly, I'm not completely jammed up against the second row. It's a little roomier than I thought. As you can probably tell, is I have no headroom. I am wearing a hat, but yeah, even without it, I wouldn't have really any space here. So for somebody my height, being back here for short distances is doable. It's not impossible, but it would not be pleasant to be back here for a long trip. Another thing to keep in mind is, just like in the second row, there aren't any ceiling mounted vents, but you also don't have the luxury of a center console with rear vents on it. You can stay hydrated though, because you have a cup holder on either side. Now let's take a look at the rear cargo area. So I've got the back seats up, which gives you an idea of the storage capacity back here. You've got a little extra space back here, which comes in handy for smaller items, or in my case, some fresh flowers and a baguette, because I had the other area full of grocery bags. And speaking of groceries, you have a little hook here that pops out. You also have a 12-volt outlet. And then these flip-up rings if you wanted to use a cargo net. There's not really anything on this side except another one of these flip-up rings. You might have seen this earlier. You got this handle here. You lift that up, and then you've got this space down here, which is more than enough to hold my collapsed tripod. I moved that out of the way so that I can show you some of the other features down here. As you can see, you've got a funnel and a jack here. So to open this up, you just turn these, pop this cover off. You got your tire changing tools right there, your funnel, and your jack. And as you could probably guess by now, the spare tire is under the vehicle. I'm going to take you through some of the basic drive settings here. There is a snow setting, so if you're in conditions like that, you've got a specific drive mode for it, and then of course you have the all-wheel drive. Then there's the comfort setting, which is pretty much as advertised. It's pretty cushy, smooths out bumps in the road. I was out the other night with family. We went out for ice cream, and it's about a half-hour drive on surface streets. So just to make the trip as pleasant as possible, I threw it into comfort mode, and you feel it's more relaxed in the steering and of course the suspension. Normal mode is a nice balance of comfort and sportiness. It's not too relaxed, but it's also not too aggressive. It's not too firm. Now I have it in sport mode. Let's see what this is like. All right. And a 25-mile-an-hour roll, foot down. All right, now it's really becoming alive. Not manic, you know, it's a naturally aspirated V6, you know, so you don't get any sort of lag or this huge surge in power. So I was at a 25-mile-an-hour roll, the foot down, and again, it's in between, you know, it's not manic. You feel this linear build and power. The engine sounds pretty nice. You don't really get any exhaust noise. There's no roar, there's no boom or anything like that, but it's also not a dog. Would more power be nice? Definitely. Am I looking forward to driving the Type S version of the MDX? Of course. But this is not one of those vehicles where you feel like, oh gosh, you know, they really should have put another 20 or 30 horsepower in this. So of course, with super handling all-wheel drive, you have the power sent to all four wheels. But on top of that, you get the advantage of it routing power to the outside wheel in a turn so that it has a sharper turn in. It just feels nice and dialed in, you know, not super aggressive, but again, not sloppy. Now, sometimes you do feel it wanting to push to the outside of the turn because there's physics involved, you know. This is a 3-row SUV, you know, it's got weight, it's got a higher center of gravity, but from the driver's seat, I never feel out of control. I never feel like this is falling all over itself or sloppy in any way. Yeah, the steering weight is nice, not too heavy. Now you might notice that I keep saying, oh, this is in between, or this is a nice mix, or a nice balance. And that's really what this vehicle is about. Acura set out to build an upscale, kind of sporty SUV, and I think they really nailed that. This is quiet, it's smooth, it's comfortable, it's pleasant. It has all of those qualities you would look for in an upscale SUV, but at the same time, it's got plenty of power, the handling is nice, the steering weight is nice. So I'm gonna wake things up a little bit more. I'm gonna hit the drive/S button to put the transmission in sport mode. Already feel the RPM jumping up. Keeps you in the thick of the power. So I got some uphill sections here, so I think this will be a good chance to test out the manual shifts. So there's not a dedicated manual button or especially gate for this shifter, so I'm just going to pull back on one of the shift paddles. Jumps up. Oh yeah, there we go. Quick. You know, it's a 10-speed auto. It's not a dual clutch box, but it's pretty quick. Quick enough for me. Transmission is pretty good at picking up on your cues. I'm gonna put my foot down hard. Yeah, right on it. Now, if there's one thing I'm not crazy about in this vehicle, it's the brake feel. You know, even in dynamic mode, the brake pedal feels soft. It's got a little bit of travel to it. Just seems a little too relaxed for me sometimes. Obviously, I don't want it super snappy and nervous, but I like a little more engagement higher up in the pedal travel than this has. The good news is, once you get to that point of engagement, it's easy to modulate, linear, smooth. It's not grabby or herky-jerky or anything like that. All right, everyone. Well, that's it for my review of the 2022 Acura MDX A Spec. If you liked what you saw, please go ahead and click the like button below. And if you're not a subscriber to There Will Be Cars already, go ahead and click the button to become one and click the bell to receive notifications on my latest reviews. Thanks for watching.